Honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, and our online viewers and radio listeners tuned in via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Cedric Peterson from the Department of Communication, and on behalf of the Council of Ministers, welcome to today's live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, November 13th, 2019. At this time, I invite the Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport, and Acting Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, the Honorable Wycliffe Smith, to address you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson. Greetings to all gathered here this morning, colleague ministers, the Department of Communications, members of the press, as well as those listening and viewing via radio, television, or social media. Good morning, Sualiga. Let me begin by saying thank you to the organizers, participants, and celebrants from both North and South for the wonderful St. Martin Day celebration that took place this past weekend. To Ms. Clara Reyes, the head of the Department of Culture, and her entire department, and the other members of the organizing committee, thank you for bringing the vision to life and executing it so well. To the police corps and to the security forces, to sports and cultural organizations, schools, businesses, parents, and children, thank you for participating and celebrating We Story. The theme of the celebrations was We Story, and all participants in one way or another gave some form of expression to We Story, which started early in the morning with the church service and ended at night with a grand cultural concert that culminated with all the Calypso monarchs together on stage. In between, there were traditional games, sports, races, and a grand cultural parade in which I also took part, dressed in my St. Martin cultural wear. Once again, a big thank you to all the organizers, participants, and celebrants from both the Dutch and the French sides for making this 60th St. Martin Saint-Martin Day Diamond Jubilee celebration such a great success. On Sunday, November 17th, the Department of Sport, in collaboration with the National Sports Institute, the NSI, and the St. Martin Sport and Olympic Federation, will be hosting the annual Brown Pelican Sports Award, honoring local athletes and sporting legends. The aim of the Brown Pelican Sports Award, as it has always been, is to place a spotlight firmly on those individuals, associations, organizations, and businesses who have worked tirelessly to make sports possible. The focus this year will be on St. Martin's cricket legends. All residents and sports enthusiasts are invited to come out and support sports and the many contributors to sports. All of this will take place on Sunday, November 17th, 2019, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. under the tent at Porte de Blaissance. The theme for this year is #SportsMatter. And now concerning a workshop organized by the Student Support Services Division. The division is organizing an interactive and informative panel discussion entitled Youth Sexting: What Parents Should Know and the Role of Adults. The general public, especially parents of primary and secondary school going children, are all invited to attend. Parents, teachers, and other interested persons in the community are encouraged to come out to this discussion, which will be held on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, at the University of St. Martin from 7 to 9 p.m. The objective of the workshop is to educate and empower parents, teachers, and the general public via an open panel discussion regarding youth sexting, the influence of social media, the role of adults, schools, and the law. Organizers hope to have a fruitful and interesting discussion to bring awareness on this issue, and they hope that persons leave empowered to be able to address it. For more information, contact the Student Support Services Division at 543-1235 or email studentsupportservices@stmartingov.org. The 40th General Conference of UNESCO is currently being held in Paris, and it's running from November the 12th through November the 27th, 2019. I have chosen not to personally attend, but instead I requested the Minister Plenipotentiary, Dr. Anders Jorien Wouter, to attend on my behalf, and she will deliver my speech to the conference. Accompanying her is the Secretary General of the UNESCO Mission in St. Martin, Miss Marcelia Henry. A word concerning the teacher satisfaction survey. Some time ago, we installed a committee that was to look at teacher satisfaction. And I've recently received the report of the evaluation of the teaching profession. There were 137 teachers who participated in the survey, and their feedback has been taken into account regarding their workload, their job satisfaction, and also job retention. A detailed press release will be issued shortly. Last week, I was happy to report that I finally received last week, I finally received the keys to the 4 new classrooms built at the St. Martin Vocational Training School. The contractor has completed his work, and the management, staff, parents, and teachers of this school will know the relief of having these additional spaces for an enhanced teaching, learning experience. This is still part of phase 1 of the improvement plans for the St. Martin Vocational Training School. Phase 2 comprises curriculum reform and improvement of teaching skills. The onus is on the management and the Division Public Education and also on the future Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport to continue to implement the plans to realize an improved delivery of the education system for our public secondary school. Electoral reform. For years, electoral reform has been the buzzword, especially around election time. What we've been trying to do is a comprehensive approach to electoral reform, whereby all changes are to be included in one attempt. It is my belief that we can also tackle electoral reform one step at a time, one article at a time, and one ordinance at a time. Ever since the government began to invoke Article 59 of the Constitution, we've always had the problem of trying to hold elections and resolve Parliament within the 3 months mentioned in the Constitution. The problem is that the snap elections mentioned in Article 59 of our Constitution are not reflected in the relevant ordinances, such as the National Ordinance Registration and Financing of Political Parties and the Election Ordinance. These ordinances only cover the regular 4-year elections, As you know, this time around, the Council of Ministers presented 3 national decrees in an attempt to comply with the 3 months mentioned in the Constitution. So with the assistance now of the Ministry of General Affairs, I have drafted proposed changes to the election ordinance and to the national ordinance registration and financing of political parties. I have proposed amending Article 19 of the election ordinance by adding a sub-2, which specifically refers to the dissolution of Parliament as mentioned in Article 59 of the Constitution, and it further specifies in the National Dissolution Decree that postulation of candidates would go into effect in a period between the 45th and the 40th day prior to the dissolution of Parliament. Whereas the Electoral Council needs approximately 6 weeks prior to postulation to approve new political parties, I'm proposing that during snap elections, elections invoked based on Article 59 of the Constitution, the Electoral Council will only need 10 days in which to approve new political parties. This draft ordinance will follow the normal route of Council of Advice, Parliament, Council of Ministers, the Governor, Constitutional Court, and eventually publication in the National Gazette. I hope that this ordinance becomes law before the, God forbid, next snap election. Regrettably, I will not be able to see this ordinance to its completion, but I hope that the law will follow due course because it will definitely solve one of the badly needed reforms, namely the proper regulation of the time sequence related to snap elections. And in closing, as you may know, this Council of Ministers is a caretaker government, and that preparations for the interim government are being concluded. We understand that the formateur is finishing up her report and that the screening of the incoming ministers is being finalized. This means that this might be the last press briefing of this caretaker Council of Ministers. I would like to say that I count it an honor and a privilege to have been able to serve the people of this country to the best of my ability and in good conscience. I served in the Romeo Marlin Cabinet too as Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport for 16 months. Working with Prime Minister Leona Romeo Marlin and with my colleague ministers was extremely rewarding, and decisions within the Council of Ministers were based on the principles of integrity, honesty, transparency, and they were taken democratically. I count it also an honor and a privilege to have been able to serve my country as Prime Minister, Minister of General Affairs for approximately 1 month in the current caretaker government. The cabinet staff of the Ministry of General Affairs has been committed, and I appreciate their dedication. Truly, my entire time in service as Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport would not have been the pleasant experience it was without the support of the departments and the divisions of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. To the Acting Secretary General, Shamina Powell-Richardson, and to her staff, as well as to the heads of the 4 departments and to the heads of the 6 divisions within the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, thank you for your unwavering commitment to our youth and to the development of our country. I wish to thank also the school boards, the school managers, and the teachers of St. Martin for their commitment to our youth, who are the foundation of this country. I would like to make a special mention to my cabinet staff, Evelyn John, Mishnella Eugenio, Ruth Linger, and Lisa Renee Wilson, whose combined efforts provided the efficient service and support of my duties. Lastly, but definitely not least, words are insufficient to thank my right hand, my Cabinet Chief of Staff, Peter J. Gittens. Peter, you are the example of what it means to serve above and beyond the call of duty. Without all the above persons, without the love and support of family and friends, and without my God and my strong tower, I would not have been able to serve country St. Martin the way that I have. Thank you very much to the people of this country. And thank you for watching and for listening, and I'll be available for any questions. Have a pleasant day.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Smith, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to invite the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Telecommunications and Transportation, the Honorable Stuart Johnson, to address you.
Members of the media, my colleague ministers in the council, to those listening via radio, television, or the internet, good morning. Firstly, this morning I take this opportunity to congratulate the organizers, participants, and spectators of the Still Balling Fever and Drift Show St. Martin edition, with participants from Curaçao, Aruba, St. Martin, St. Eustatius, and Guadeloupe. This event surely complemented the list of activities surrounding our 60th Diamond Jubilee for St. Martin's Day 2019. I firmly believe and commit that this event should be an annual event. Further, I believe the discussion for the completion of an envisioned drag strip racetrack should become a reality in the very near future, which has my unwavering support. Secondly, I would like to inform you that the letter of agreement between the Meteorological Department of St. Martin and the Princess Juliana International Airport will be signed by me today. Both the airport and the Met Office agreed on the LOA that was signed on the 18th of July 2014 for the period of the 1st of January 2013 to the 31st of December 2018. At the expiration of the first contract, a new agreement was to be negotiated by both parties. This process was delayed because the airport indicated that based on their financial situation, it was difficult to adhere to the financial obligation of 500,000 guilders per year. The airport proposed a reduction fee of 75% of the period the 1st of January 2019 to the 31st of December 2021, which would be 125,000 guilders per year. The ministry therefore provided a counter-proposal for the fees, which go as follows: 25% off for 2019, 15% off for 2020 and 21, and for the remaining of the contract period, 2022 to 2023, the full 500,000 guilders. The airport, of course, accepted the offer and proposed conditions for the payments and retroactive payments thereof. The new LOA is what both parties have agreed to form part of the contents of the agreement based on what is presently provided and in collaboration in accordance with ICAO and WMO regulations for the next 5 years. Thirdly, I take note of the Island Council meeting of the public entity of Sabre dated November 7, 2019. The outcome of the meeting ended with all members of the Island Council walking out, demanding better treatment for civil servants and the payment of a 13-month for civil servants. I stand in full solidarity with them, as I made a similar call here on St. Martin a few weeks ago for our civil servants. Fourthly, on November the 20th, the cruise ship, the Norwegian Bliss, will make its inaugural call on St. Martin, as this once again shows confidence in our country, our port, and our people. Lastly, I take this opportunity to thank God Almighty for strength and faith, my cabinet support team, the entire Ministry of TIAT staff, my colleagues in the Council of Ministers, and everyone for their support as your Minister of TIAT and your humble servant. May God continue to bless our country and our nation and our people. At this time, I look forward to any questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister Johnson, for your opening remarks. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our Minister of Justice and Minister of Finance and Acting Minister of Justice, the Honorable Perry Hillings, and invite him to address you at this time.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, St. Martin, my colleagues and members of the press. As the Prime Minister already alluded to, might be our last press briefing. So I would like to start off also to express my that it was really an honor for me to have served country St. Martin and the people of St. Martin. I would like to thank really everybody who bestowed their trust in me and allowed me to become Minister of Finance and try and did serve our people. Special thanks also to my cabinet and my colleagues at the Ministry of Finance, the colleagues at the tax department. You know, as minister, there's no way that you would be able to make things work and to put your vision to fruition without your staff. And the recognition to your staff, recognition to the apparatus of the civil servants that are there to support you, is of such a importance. And, you know, at times it is really good to mention that, because without them, you know, there is no successful ministry, there is no successful minister. Again, I would like to acknowledge that and express my sincere gratitude to each and everyone who helped to make my life miserable while I was a minister. But in a sense that it took a lot of work, hard work to get things into the right direction. I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Then I would like to, if I put my Justice Ministry hat on, I would like to still announce that this coming Friday, the second batch of cadets will enter into their training to become a police officer. The training is conducted in collaboration with the Police Academy from the Netherlands. So actually we are upping the skill and the requirements, of course, to become a good police officer. It took some, how we say that, it took some dealing and wheeling to also make it financially work, and there's where I put my Ministry of Finance hat on. But we were able to secure the funding for that process. And I'm very happy that finally we can put this second group back in school to produce the necessary assistance and support and strengthening of our police force. Then I would like to go back to my Ministry of Finance portfolio. It is still unfortunate that this cabinet comes to a close, but just to make sure that the community is aware, especially the small and medium-sized businesses. For the past 6 to 7 months, we have been working on a stimulus package for the small and medium-sized businesses in St. Martin to give them a financial boost to further strengthen their presence in our economy. Today, it was actually planned to submit it yesterday, but we still need to bring it to the Council of Ministers. So hopefully today the proposed plan will be sent to the steering committee for approval. For this project, there was an amount of 35 million US dollars earmarked. But in order to roll out that project, we needed the banking facility to help out in providing the additional financing for the small and medium-sized enterprises. That showed to be very cumbersome, and Ministry of Finance then, together with the World Bank, contacted the central bank. They were willing to facilitate, but it takes, because of the banking rules, it takes quite some time to put that properly in place. So in the meantime, we have come up with another plan to kind of bridge that period until the central bank is ready, to kind of subsidize turnover tax already paid. But this proposal, again, further details will be announced, will be done, will be made to the World Bank Steering Committee. Hopefully we will get in their meeting of, I believe, next week, an approval for that, and that can continue. So the incoming Minister of Finance can continue working on that project. But just to make sure that that is lined up. Then, where the 2020 budget is concerned, we received it back from the Council of Advice. The additional reporting on that is being done. But of course, because of the outgoing status now from this cabinet, nothing much can be done by us. But I made sure as Minister of Finance that there is a transition document specifically catered to the 2020 budget. So my incoming new colleague can continue with that as well. I believe that is it for now, but also thank you to the press corps for the questions that you have asked for the past 16 months. It is highly appreciated that you are there, and I would like to see more of the press present in our press briefings. Thank you very much, and I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Minister Heerlings, for your opening remarks. If you're just joining us, you're viewing and listening to the Live Council of Ministers press briefing. The Minister of Romi, the Honorable Chris Waver, is currently attending the press briefing, but will not be making any opening remarks. We'll be taking any questions that the media might have. I'd like to open the floor for the questions the media would like to pose. First round begins. Ms. Boseman from the Daily Herald. Good morning. You have the floor.
Good morning, ministers, and good morning, St. Martin. My first question is for Minister Johnson. A couple weeks ago, you proposed to the Council of Ministers for benefits for civil servants. Have the Council of Ministers met in regards to this, and how do government plan to move forward?
Thank you, Ms. Boseman, for your question. Of course, the Council of Ministers has had several internal discussions about it, and of course, we'll continue to have those until the last day we're in office, and that is an ongoing process even for the incoming government to look at as well. And you know, it's about serving the people of St. Martin. Everyone in these positions serve on behalf of a nation, and I can only expect that that mantle will carry on in the continuity of government.
Thank you very much, Minister Johnson. Lyndon Brown, good morning. You have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to the ministers that are present here today. Sad to see you're leaving, but you're going to be back shortly. Minister, question to the ministers. Is it bothering that you did not accomplish some of your wishes and the tasks and plans you have for the betterment of St. Martin?
I'll go first. Mr. Brown, thank you for your confidence in us returning for sure. And going forward, I can only hope that, indeed, the completion of what has happened in this governing period continues to be made available, made known. As I indicated in previous press briefings, there is a transition document that has been finalized for the Ministry of TIAT. All other ministers will speak on their behalf as well. But if I look back at the year and months that we've been in office, the year and months that I've been the minister in charge of TIAT, I think there's going to be some big shoes to fill. And I look forward to, of course, that list of accomplishments that have been finalized in that transition document, again, being a refresher for the work that has been done. As you've seen, several agreements have been signed, from the Airbnb agreement between my colleague, the Minister of Finance, and I, to the air transport agreements from the Dominican Republic and Brazil that were signed, for the several inaugural calls for the attraction of economic opportunities for our island, from the mega yachts that we expect to get this tourist season, from the inaugural calls of new cruise ships coming to our island. The most recent, again, now coming up is November 20th, the Norwegian Bliss. And of course, the airlines that we attract, the flight frequencies that we attract. So that has been the work of the Ministry of TIAT, as well as the ongoing initiatives as outlined in the governing program. Many persons have seen where the Council of Ministers has had discussions, and discussions are always healthy, in terms of what the airport, for instance, would look like. My only aspiration has been, besides ensuring the livelihood of the workers of the airport continues to be protected and safeguarded, as the airport is completed with U.S. pre-clearance. When I signed the LBA with my colleague, the Minister of Finance, already this government has committed to that, committed to what is on page 95 of the governing program, and that, of course, is going to continue with, I hope, the continuity of government. Putting all the politics aside, this country needs a fully functional, new, modern airport with U.S. pre-clearance. In addition to that, if we look at where this Council of Ministers has come in many areas in terms of supporting initiatives, from gospel concerts to the music festival, to the regatta, to carnival, to the most recent, the drag strip car and bike show that we've had, we've seen initiatives that stimulate economic opportunities for our people. Again, the shopping event that is coming up at the end of the month. So there's several initiatives, and these initiatives took from day one of the responsibility that I have to continue to see that our people are part of the process, part of the prosperity, and that is an ongoing desire that I have. And of course, we'll look forward to doing that once returning, hopefully next year, when this governing period ends for the interim cabinet that's coming in, and the new one takes office for a full 4-year period, which this country desperately needs: a fully stable government, that we can ensure that there's investors that are coming to our country, that we can, again, not continue to upset the general public of St. Martin by having every year or every other year an election. That politics aside, that this country can have a stable government that represents all of the people all of the time, and represents only the interests of the people and not specific agendas. That is what I hope to see when we return once again, and I look forward to the support not only of the press corps, as you've been, and others, but also the continued support of the people of St. Martin and around the world. That is actually sad to see this government go, and I'm sure that that will also come to light in a few days as well.
Thank you very much, Minister Johnson. Ms. Boseman, you have the floor. I'm sorry, Prime Minister, you want to add to that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown, for your question, which you posed to all of the ministers. Of course, when one is appointed as minister, one has certain plans, certain goals, certain objectives. And it's unfortunate that we have not been able to see all of them through fruition. However, there are lots of initiatives that started, and I rely a lot on the civil service that remains. Ministers come, ministers go, but the Secretary General and the rest of the staff of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, they continue, and it's good to know that they will continue many of the initiatives. When I first became minister, I felt that we should not start, to change everything and to get new things in, but if something was started, an initiative, a project, a program had been started, which was to the benefit of the people of St. Martin and the children that this ministry serves, that it should continue. And I hope that my successor will do the same. There are several initiatives that we started, For instance, the transformation of public education is one whereby the Council of Ministers took a decision some time ago, previous Council of Ministers, to transform public education and let it become a public entity similar to school boards. Now we have continued that process, and right now we are about to appoint a change manager who will continue the process of making that transformation, that transition from public education that falls as a division or department of government to an entity similar to school boards, where that entity would be able to have immediate decision-making over education itself. And the study financing ordinance that was passed, we have initiated improvement in the curriculum, but also in the facilities at the St. Martin Vocational Training School. Our staff have gone through policy-based budgeting training sessions, and the budgeting of the ministry is now being based on policies rather than on projects. And of course, there are many other support that we gave to sports and cultural events and youth events. So we expect to see that these will continue because whatever is in the best interest of the people and our students, I believe that my successor will continue with that. And I believe in stability of government, and what we've tried in our ministry is to bring about tranquility and stability in the ministry, so that those who are working there do not always feel the sudden changes of ministers, but that they can continue with the programs that they initiated. I've recently signed off on all the programs that all the departments and the ministries and the divisions have prepared, so that they can continue doing that. And I want to say also thanks to the press for being there and asking questions, and I would like for you to continue to do that, to inform our people of what is going on in government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Minister Herlings.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Well, my colleagues, there are a couple of things that stands out, but the main thing is stability. There's no way, whichever government is in, I think one should realize it takes at least 1 year to prepare, based on the governing program, to prepare the plans of action, and in the second year you see where it normally is being rolled out. We should really realize that it is not that you step in and then immediately things are going to happen. Secondly, everybody is thankful to the press corps, but I just want to make one thing very clear. The press is also there to have a, not only in support, but especially the checks and balances, to control, to make sure that whatever they see wrong or not fitting, not becoming a government, that is being addressed. So from the press perspective, I would like to make that remark. Thirdly, yes, the programs, as you know, we are ready actually to roll out the tax reform and public finance management projects, which are really needed. As a matter of fact, before this press briefing, I had to sit down with the IMF, and again, the IMF mission that is here right now emphasized that if St. Martin wants to continue to grow and to stabilize from a financial perspective, that is very important that the fiscal reform plans that we have developed at the Ministry of Finance, that they are, continued on, and that goes also for the public finance management. As you know, we still, since 2015, we have this Kingdom instruction that we need to do better from a financial perspective. Now, those plans are there. On top of that, I think it's very important also to make sure that whichever government that comes in, that they are aware of the clear instruction given by the governor to the formator. And one of the points in that instruction was to make sure that the interim government, it doesn't apply to whichever government comes in after January 9th, but especially for the formation of the interim government, that the interim government is tasked to continue virtually where we left off, where the airport is concerned, where the reforms of the tax department and things like that is concerned. So I will keep a keen eye on that, because once you accept that formation instruction, then you kind of promise that that's what you're going to do. And whenever the day comes that you take the oath, you do the same thing, to uphold the Constitution. So for me, I am sure that that is what the interim government is set out to do. But again, we will monitor that. But thank you again. That is what I had to contribute to your question, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much, Minister Heerlings. Members of the media, Minister of Romy, the Honorable Chris Weaver, will have to depart at this time. So we, of course, request that if there's any questions you have for his respective ministry, to be sure to pose those directly to his cabinet. Minister Weaver, thank you very much for your attendance today. I'd like to continue now with our additional questions. Ms. Boseman, you have the floor.
My second question is for Minister Heerlings. Police and immigrations and their unions are quite upset for a long time in regards to the finalization for a range of issues, including their legal status, salary scale, and so forth. Can you provide an update on these matters, and when are they expected to be finalized?
Thank you for that question, Ms. Boseman. When I took up the caretaker position of Minister of Justice, I was confronted with kind of a escalating issue at the police force where it concerns their legal position in their function, and also where the salaries are concerned. When I was confronted with it, I had immediately a meeting with the representatives of the unions. They presented me a day or two later with their letter of grievances and kind of requests for mitigating their grievances. I replied to them, and before I replied to them, we had a follow-up meeting to explain what they can expect from my reply. And following that, we had the meeting last week. I believe you were present there as well, Ms. Boseman, with the management of the unions and the membership. Basically, what I'm trying to do in the short period that I allotted to me is to put things on track and to create clarity between the stakeholders. Because the first thing I noticed is that the stakeholders each had a different opinion or perception of the situation at hand. And if you want to move forward in a sustainable and in a structural way, you need to create a sense of clarity, that there can be no misunderstanding when you continue the talks. And so that is what we are busy doing. Because as you probably have noticed, someday somewhere in a newspaper, a politician mentioned that he is going to instruct the incoming Minister of Justice to pay a lump sum, and just before Christmas. You know, it's all and well, but if you look at the reality, when government makes a payment, the government should have legal basis to make a payment. And if that legal basis is not there, the payment becomes difficult. What you should do is to make sure that you have all of that in place and that you also have the information, what are you talking about, what type of amounts, who is involved, who is entitled to. Then the other issue that we are facing, the rechtspositieregeling. The country St. Maarten, actually, if the first time I looked at it, had 3 different ones. So which one is the real one? So that is the one that's what we are establishing as we speak. As Minister of Finance, I'm involved because the unions, together with my finance department, are sorting out the figures. We have put to the unions the legality of the matter, but I made a promise in Parliament, and I made it again when we met with the union members, that there's 6 million guilders earmarked to start paying up the arrears that we have towards our police officers. And they are well deserving. And I can tell you, for the past weeks that I've been dealing with it, I understand fully where they're coming from. I think we should have done better, all governments in the past. We really should have done better. Because the way I look at it, you know, there was some structure lacking, and that's what we're trying to put in place right now. So I hope that the Minister of Justice that is coming in, that he or she will continue in that manner. I have a very open and transparent and healthy discussion level with the unions. So I'm very positive that before I go out, that we have put, you know, a picture together of these are the basic things that is clear for everybody, so we can move forward. That is the status right now. Thank you for that question.
Thank you very much, Minister Heerlings. Lyndon Brown.
Question to the outgoing Prime Minister. Minister Smith, every week you've been emphasizing on the word Swaliga. And I don't think the people get the message. You'll be sending a message. We know the history of Swaliga. And during St. Martin's Day, MP William Marlin read from a document. And his emphasis, the emphasis from the document was St. Martin's Day is too much Europeanized. And the emphasis, in other words, too much European activities in St. Martin's Day. And you emphasize, Prime Minister, Swaliga. I know from my psychological understanding, there's a message. Tell the people what's the message behind that emphasis, Swaliga.
Well, that's the name that was given to St. Martin by Indians who lived here, Swaliga, land of salt. And that's what it is. St. Martin was a salt mine. Salt was produced, shipped, and that economy made St. Martin great. So that's the name, the original name that was given to it.
The message.
The message.
You've been emphasizing the word.
Well, instead of saying St. Martin, I said Swaliga. If I say the word St. Martin, do you expect a message behind the word St. Martin?
It has a legacy, Prime Minister. What is a legacy? Just continue.
It's just the name, land of salt, that's given to St. Martin and that we use.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Ms. Bosman, final question.
Thank you. My third question is for Mr. Kierlins. 2 weeks ago, you said that St. Martin had just about $25 to $30 million in its coffers. What is the amount today, and how long before this runs dry?
Thank you for that question. As a matter of fact, I will not be able to give you the exact figure, but it should be close to between 20 and 25 million still, and it's guilders, not US dollars. You see, if you security, the country of St. Martin, I'm sorry, 25 million guilders at this point. But it's not sufficient because if you want to run a stable, secured, operational expense type of financial management, the desire would be to have at least 3 months of income readily available in the banks. So from that perspective, I would say, if we can get our 40 million capital expenditures loan finally approved and our third quarter liquidity support finally in, then we will be able to continue beyond December and January. But right now, I'm not so sure, but I don't want to stir up things too much where that is concerned. But yes, financially, as you know, 2020 again will have a deficit. We are still on shaky grounds. And, I cannot emphasize more on this than I'm already doing. It so seems from everything that happens outside, the ships coming in, the airplanes coming in, and tourists are visiting, and it so looks that, it's busy, buzzy. We're making money. Yes, indeed, we're making money. And yes, the economy is growing, and that is really a good thing that is happening. But our financial debts, that is something that you need to take care of as well. So we do not have the money to freely spend as everybody wants and, their own, to meet their own desires. But it is a challenge. It's going to be a continued challenge for the incoming government and any government afterwards until at least 2022, 2023. So that is, there's nothing much changed than the fact that we are growing towards a more positive direction, in a more positive direction. But liquidity-wise, right now, it's shaky grounds.
Thank you very much, Minister Hillings. Lyndon Brown, your final question, please.
Final question to the minister. As we trickling down, there's not much the ministers can do now. Ministers, campaign soon. Campaign is on the verge. Ministers, your concern of the constant bad story, meaning the kind of rhetorics that you will hear oftentimes by campaigners.
Mr. Brown, I would hate to interrupt your flow, but we are running very short on time, so I need you to get to your question as soon as possible. Thank you.
Disrespectful terminology of ministers. And ministers, I think you guys are concerned, and send a message to the people that this campaign will be in order, with respect for each other.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Indeed, if I may just dovetail on what you said, we can only anticipate that with every election cycle, every campaign, you're going to hear facts, you're going to hear rhetoric, and you're going to hear some folks engaging in political mileage for whatever agenda they have. I think, truth be told, is if the electorate looks at the individual candidates on their record, looks at their character, looks at their strength, looks at their resilience in terms of facing adversity, they would be able to see right from off the bat who is a potential to return or to be in government representing the needs of the people. If we look at what it requires to serve in the highest offices of this country, it requires someone who can make the call, whether it's 8 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning, or receive the call and truly serve the people of St. Martin. That's what it requires. It also requires you to multitask in several facets of a ministry or several areas of focus that requires your undivided attention. It also requires someone not to be a narcissist and a team player. So when you go through all of that and you realize that this election cycle, like every other, is going to have some rhetoric, is going to have some sorts of things thrown out left, right, and center, By the end of the day, if you go on a fact-finding mission, if you go based on a record of accomplishments for someone or what they can do or have done, and not what they still envision to do, because a lot of talk has taken this country in directions where it didn't need to go. And what this country needs is stability, it needs action, it needs people that will continue to roll up their sleeves and get the job done for the interest of the people of St. Martin. I've said in several interviews in the media that every member of the council, every member that's in office is listed as a PEP, a person of political interest at the bank. So the frivolous remarks to make in terms of persons are getting whatever from whatever signing of agreements is simply not there. Everything is monitored from you. So again, I look forward to having a clean election, an election in regards to where the rhetoric is to a minimum. Of course, an election where there is absolutely no vote buying, engagement of that. I think we need a free and fair election, and the people of St. Martin deserve, at the end of the day, a stable government for the next 4 years. And I think with the blessings of God Almighty bestowed upon this great nation, we will see that true and true, and we'll see a government that reflects everyone on St. Martin for sure, once again.
Thank you very much, Minister Johnson. Prime Minister, honorable ministers of the council, thank you very much for updating us on matters related to your respective ministries. And on behalf of my colleagues at the Department of Communication, it was truly an honor to have served you during your time of service. And to the members of the media, thank you very much for your participation in today's press briefing. And to our online viewers and radio listeners, thank you for tuning in and being a part of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today. If you've missed a broadcast, be sure to log on to the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin. That's facebook.com/SXMGOV for video on demand. And be sure to tune in to 107.9 FM, St. Martin Gov Radio, throughout the course of the day. On behalf of all of us at the Department of Communication and the Council of Ministers, respectively, I'm Cedric Peterson. Thanks for tuning in.